Hey dads, in this video series, we've been talking about becoming a father who doesn't suck. And so we've talked already about a couple of great topics. I hope you've looked at those and talked about those maybe with a mentor or with just some other dads who want to be better dads in their life. Well, in this third video, we're going to talk about fathering through the gray areas because I know the guys that I talk with, the dads that I talk with, everyone says, man, what do I do when, something happens, but it's kind of a gray area? It's really obvious when, your kid is just screwing up and is just completely disobedient. Hopefully you're man enough to step up and discipline your kid when that happens. But what do you do when it's just a little bit more nebulous? When it's maybe like a defiant attitude or a rolling of the eyes or something like that. Like, should you let them get away with that? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Here's the first thing. Learn to name the root issue when it comes to gray areas. And I have a suggestion for you. Here's what I think the root issue is. And you can go back to our first lesson to learn more about this. But I know when my kid rolls her eyes at me, then I know the root issue is a defiant attitude. It might not be totally obvious. It might not be completely in my face. It's not like she's flipping me the bird or something like that. But when I see that, I just see kind of like, oh, whatever, dad, and that's a defiant attitude. Now, it's important that you name it. It's important that you identify it because the more nebulous you keep something like that, the more power you give your kid. And pretty soon your kid is going to be wearing the pants in your relationship because they're getting away with every single eye roll or every single toss back of the head, or you know what I'm talking about. And when that happens, you've lost the battle and you've started sucking as a father. So here's what to do. Draw the line as parents first. I'm talking about sitting down with your wife. Hopefully, if you're married, you'll do this. If you're not, just really make sure you get clarity on this with your mentor or with your men's group. But sit down and say, what's the issue here? Talk about it. Get on the same page. I do this with my wife. My wife and I sit down and we do our little state of the union thing going on with our kids. Hey, how do we think our daughter's doing? How do we think our son is doing? Let's identify where they're having a defiant attitude so that we're both on the same page, so that we both are seeing the same thing, because the last thing that we want is for our kids to divide us. And mom doesn't think it's a big idea or a big deal, but dad thinks it is. And so now they're going to divide and conquer. And so the first thing is to get on the same page and make sure that mom and dad are thinking and identifying the same little gray area issue. And when you identify it, now you draw the line and you say this: what are we going to do the next time our daughter rolls her eyes at us? I mean, she's not an evil person. She's not a terrible person. But if we keep letting her get away with it, then that attitude is going to be reaffirmed and she's going to take it through the rest of her life. So draw the line. I'm talking about a consequence. What will be the consequence if your son or daughter has that defiant attitude? And once you've drawn the line as parents, you can go and draw the line with your teen and be really clear about it. This is the essence of intentional parenting. Dads, if you don't want to suck at being a dad, you're going to have to grow a pair and sit down and have some conversations with your wife first and then with your kids next. And I know this is especially hard if your kid is a teen and if you've let your kid get away with this for years already. Well, listen, don't let him get away with it anymore. Be as loving and transactional as you possibly can be, but sit down and draw the line and say, listen, son, daughter, here's something that mom and I have finally identified. And we're sorry that we've been letting you get away with this all this time, but we're not going to let you do it anymore. Make sure you have that conversation in a calm time. Do it in a time when they're ready to hear and say, listen, here's the thing. Here's what you do. Here's what we've defined it as, what we've identified it as. It's a defiant attitude, or whatever words you want to use. And we just want you to know that's not good with us anymore. Dads, if you're not willing to father through the gray areas, because usually these gray areas have to do with attitude, that root issue. Don't just identify actions and discipline your kids for their actions, especially those really obvious bad actions. Also, discipline them and shepherd their heart, their attitude. Make sure that you've got that in mind as well, because that's the best way to father your kids. And that's going to make sure that you have kids that really are going to go the distance and be awesome men and women. All right, so guys, I told you that I was going to do at least 3 of these videos. So that's the first 3. If you've got more questions or more topics that you want me to cover for dads, I want you to put it in the comments below this video on YouTube. I'll make sure to respond to you, and when I get some good comments, I'll continue to add to this series so that you can get together with your mentor or the men's group and become a dad who doesn't suck.